Let's dive right into this explainer, where we're tackling something pretty incredible. We're taking your standard English language curriculum and transforming it into a literal toolkit for building trust, providing care, and preserving human dignity in social services. If you've ever wondered how the exact word you use can actually change someone's life, well, you're absolutely in the right place. Listen to this quote from our source material. It hits the nail on the head when it comes to today's stakes. In the world of social services, human connection and empathy, they don't just happen by magic. They actually start with a specific vocabulary and grammar we choose. Our language is literally the first hand we extend to someone in need. So, how do we get there? We'll break it down into 5 key areas. We'll explore the language of respect, how to properly document someone's past, the art of asking the right questions, facing the reality of violence, and finally, identifying specific needs and pain. Sound good? Let's get into it. First up, the language of respect. It's all about shifting our focus entirely back to the human beings sitting in front of us. The real game changer here is the shift to what we call person-first language. Instead of saying someone is a drug addict or a disabled person, we say person with addiction problems or person with a disability. Hear the difference? It puts their humanity first and treats their condition as secondary, rather than letting it define their whole identity. It's a tiny shift that shows massive, immediate respect. Phrasing it this way kind of lifts the condition right off the person. It frames it as something they carry, almost like a heavy backpack. It stops being who they are and just becomes a piece of what they're currently experiencing. Now, social integration professionals support a really wide variety of folks. Matching a specific group, whether we're talking about the elderly, recent migrants, or people experiencing homelessness, to their unique needs is step 1 in comprehensive care. For example, an elderly person might desperately need companionship, while a new migrant might urgently require language support to navigate their new reality. But, and this is absolutely crucial, we have to remember that behind every single category or statistic is a real, breathing human face. Our language needs to be as diverse and empathetic as the communities we serve. Every person comes with a unique story, and that requires us to listen completely free of judgment. Moving on to our second tool, documenting their past. And this is where we reframe grammar from being a dusty old rulebook to an active, vital reporting tool. Let's look at a real-world scenario with a woman named Maria. Mapping out her story chronologically really highlights how documenting past trauma and progress requires precise grammatical tools. 2 years ago, she lost her job. For a few months, she was living with her sister. Notice how those distinct milestones demand different language structures to tell her story accurately? Like I said, grammar isn't just theory here, it's a super practical tool. We use the past simple for major, completed life events. Think, she completed the course. And we switch to the past continuous to paint the background picture, like she was feeling nervous. It perfectly separates the hard, concrete facts from the complex emotional landscape. This brings us to asking the right questions, specifically during that critical and often incredibly stressful empathetic intake interview. When you look at the standard steps for a shelter intake dialogue, you can see exactly how a professional uses a calm tone and very deliberate pacing. You greet them, you explicitly reassure them they can stop at any time, no pressure, and only then do you gently move to the required data. This specific sequence is designed to make the user feel entirely safe and respected when they might be feeling totally overwhelmed. And look, when we do finally get to the inevitable paperwork, knowing the precise terminology for those forms is key. We need to distinguish quickly between a surname, marital status, or current occupation. Why? So we can gather the facts efficiently, get the form out of the way, and put our full focus right back where it belongs, on the person's emotional state. Actually, asking one simple, direct question before diving into any of that paperwork is the absolute ultimate tool for showing empathy. Just asking, "How are you feeling today?" validates their current emotional reality. It proves you see them as a human being first and a case file a distant second. Let's shift gears a bit and look at the reality of violence, because we really need to understand the global crisis we're operating within. We have to ground everything we're talking about in some pretty sobering realities. Many users, like the fictional Alexandra from our source case studies, are survivors of deep systemic trauma, like gender-based violence. This requires highly specialized, incredibly non-judgmental support. When someone has literally been silenced by violence, the way we speak to them has to be meticulously careful to help rebuild their shattered sense of safety.
To put that into perspective, there is a World Health Organization statistic from the source material that is just staggering. 1 in 3 women globally has experienced physical or sexual violence during her lifetime. Let that sink in. 1 in 3. This proves that social integration work isn't just local community support. You are quite literally on the front lines of a massive global crisis. Finally, let's talk about identifying needs and pain, focusing on how we address basic human essentials. Identifying these needs really boils down to reading between the lines. It's about connecting a user's overarching life challenges, things like housing instability, financial stress, or unemployment, with immediate, practical services on the ground, like getting them fresh supplies at a local community food bank. And this absolutely applies to physical health, too. When a user is suffering, you need to know the precise difference in English between an ache, which is continuous or mild, a pain, which is sharp and severe, and the verb hurt. Knowing these nuances allows you to accurately assess their physical state and get them the exact medical attention they need right when they need it. From severe fatigue and dizziness to joint pain or even a sprained ankle, having an immediate command of health vocabulary is a completely non-negotiable skill. Think about it. You simply cannot help someone if you can't accurately understand and then properly report the symptoms they're describing to you. And of course, it goes the other way too. Depending on the symptoms described, professionals also need to understand the basic medical remedies that might be prescribed. You've got to know the difference between simple painkillers for a headache, antibiotics for an infection, or critical antidepressants for severe emotional distress. Recognizing these common treatments, both visually and by name, helps you follow up effectively. It's how you ensure that the people you're helping are actually getting better, truly understanding their prescriptions, and adhering safely to their health plans. It's the whole shebang of comprehensive care. To wrap up this explainer, I want you to remember something absolutely crucial. The language you use is a profound form of care in and of itself. The right grammar, the right vocabulary, and the right tone can literally restore dignity to someone who feels they've lost it. So I'll leave you with this final thought. What kind of trust will your words build today? Keep learning, keep explaining, and I'll catch you next time.